aren't from around the area, but we're fortunate enough on this station to have local DJs, and Dennis is one of them. And I reached out to him. I saw some really interesting articles and just hearing some things on NPR about how radio has certainly been changing a little bit in this COVID-19 atmosphere. And he's going to share a little bit about how that's changed and certainly the direct experience that he has in our community. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dennis. Dennis, do you have slides that you want to share? We can give you the share screen if you want.
I don't have any slides. In fact, I'm used to talking on the radio and ad-libbing quite a bit, and this type of thing makes me really, really nervous. So I had a bunch of notes that I'm just going to take and go like this. I'm just going to kind of talk about things as I know them. One of the things I want to start out by saying is that there is actually I guess you call it a myth, an urban legend, that radio listening has gone down over the last few years. That is actually not true. The CUME, which is a fancy word for the total number of people that listen to a radio station at any given time, has actually gone up since I started working at Fun 101.3 about 8 years ago. So that number has been on the increase, mainly with 25 to 54-year-old listeners. Where we have been concerned going into the future is with the younger demographics, kids 12 to 34, and that being because of so many different options out there for streaming. The kids get their music, pretty much on demand at this point. And if they want to hear a song, they've got it dialed up on whatever they want to dial it up on. One thing that radio brings to the table that no other medium brings, at least I hope. And you can't say that about newspapers, television, satellite radio, even these streaming devices like Pandora, things like that. I mean, you're paying for that. Radio is always going to be here for you. And when the pandemic hit, there was concern that this could hit us pretty hard. But what we have found is that it's quite the opposite, and that reason being that people are turning to, it's like a security blanket for them. People are turning to what they have always known and loved. People want a little bit of balance in their life right now. You've probably heard people say you can't watch news anymore. There's just too much information. It's information overload. So what we're finding is that people don't want us giving them more information. They want an outlet to turn to. We're not a news talk station, so that, the WHPs and the news talk stations are going to be there if they need them. But what we've learned is that people still want to laugh. People still want comfort. They want music. And it seems as though our listeners have stuck around, and what we're finding is that the younger demo that we've been concerned about is starting to learn, if you will, about this thing called radio. I saw a funny meme not too long ago, and it was a teenager saying, wouldn't it be great if there was a podcast that was in real time that gave you actual information about what was happening right now? And to me, I find that humorous because that's us. That's radio. We've been around forever, kids. We're here. And at-home listening has actually gone up since the pandemic. So the out-of-home listening has always been our strongest listenership. But because of people being at home, what we found is that more and more people are now streaming us on Amazon devices, on their Alexas. People are listening on their smartphones, and it's nice to be back in people's homes again, because when I started out in radio in the 90s, at-home listening was huge for radio. And over the last couple of years, that type of listening has gone down. We've had more people listening in their cars and at work. So it is nice to see a resurgence and a return to people listening to the radios at home, even if it's not really a radio per se. People are listening on those funky little Amazon devices, and people are dialing us up on their smartphones too. So that's really cool. The time of day people are listening has also shifted. It used to be, before this all started, that morning drive was the coveted time slot. That was the time that people spent the most time listening. But because of listening habits changing, people sleeping in, not having to be at work or working from home. The midday hours, believe it or not, the 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. time slot has quickly taken over the morning drive as the most listened to time of the day. So that's really interesting to us. But for the most part, I do have a quote here, and this was from a survey that was done with Nielsen radio listeners. When it comes to listener expectations, the audience still wants their favorite radio station to sound like their favorite radio station. Nearly 2/3 of core radio listeners surveyed in an early April study said their favorite station should stick to its format and not get too information heavy. In other words, despite keeping listeners informed about the evolving pandemic, stations should stay in their lane. People want to hear their favorite radio station to sound the way that it normally does. And that's what we've done. We've actually upped our fun factor over the last month. As strange as it may sound, we've actually kicked things up to give people that outlet, that escape from the information overload. And I feel like we're doing the right thing. And I feel like there's a lot of other radio stations that are doing the same thing right now as well. The other thing I wanted to talk about was a recent study. This was a group of people that responded to a survey about the COVID-19 and how they've been listening to the radio. These are among the top answers that people gave why they're listening to the radio right now. Makes me feel more connected to my community, makes me feel less alone, makes me feel less stressed, and makes me feel less concerned and panicked. So I think that in a nutshell tells you why people have come back to the radio. Not that people have gone away from the radio, but why people are sticking with radio, and why local radio, as Wendy pointed out, there are a lot of syndicated shows out there. And it's easy to tune into a station, based out of New York City, talking about New York City things. But people are coming back to the local radio so they can hear what's going on in Lancaster County, hear what's going on in Dauphin County and the surrounding areas. And localism is definitely a big part of the resurgence of people listening and their listening habits right now during the pandemic. So if anybody has any questions, that's basically what I have in a nutshell there. But if anybody has any questions about the state of radio or anything else, I'll do my best to answer.
I'm curious about what is it like in the radio station during these times, with relations with your coworkers? How are you handling that?
Sure.
What is that?
Sure. So I do the morning show, and my morning show partner, Michelle Cruz, has been doing her part of the morning show from home. We are fortunate enough to have broadcast equipment that I can just pull her up right on the board. So I have been going in. I've been running the show alone, but she's right there with me. And I think that the equipment is so good that you wouldn't even know that we're not in the same studio but we're telling people, people need to know that we're social distancing as well. So we're making everybody aware of that.
Right.
I got a question, and I think Deb Jones has a question for you on chat. But my question, I got a chance to read your bio while you were talking. One, you're a Baltimore Orioles fan. Why would you do that to yourself?
Yes, nothing wrong with that.
Right, and secondarily, 1013 changed formats a couple times. Like, what happened to your listenership during those format changes?
Oh, that's a great question. We didn't actually change format so much as it was a name.
Don't ignore the Orioles question. Don't ignore the Orioles question.
Go O's. That's all I'll say
Go
about
O's.
that. World Series champs 2024. It's coming. Write it down. It wasn't necessarily a format change as it was a name change. We were 101 The Rose for years. You may remember that. And we did a perceptual study and found out that the name The Rose was construed as light, easy listening, easy, soft music. And we wanted to have more of a fun, upbeat, uplifting perception, and bounced around a few name change ideas, and Fun 101.3 was the name that stuck. So it was more of a makeover than it was a format change. Oh, you're a Yankees fan. Come on. Don't do that to me.
Hey, Dennis, we got a chat question from Deb Jones, and it's how does the station balance music interests of the different generations?
So when you do radio, you need to pick a lane and stay in it. Unfortunately, it's really hard. And like many other businesses, it's hard to service everybody and make everybody happy. So the lane that we're in is the adult contemporary lane. We play some 80s, some 90s, and some from today. We don't go back any further than probably 1984 at this point. And as times change, we're phasing that out as we go. It's you gotta evolve with the times, and unfortunately, those 80s songs start to become oldies, and you got to stay in your lane.
That's great, Dennis. It reminds me of junior prom in 1984.
There you go. There you go.
All right, Scott Little has a question and a comment. Go ahead, Scott.
Dennis, first of all, I'm an Orioles fan. There's a lot of screwed up people in this chat room. So
yes.
Yeah, a lot of messed up people. First of all, could you explain what you meant by when you said we upped our fun factor? I think I know what that means, but you explain. And secondly, I worked in radio for 25 years. It was my choice to get out. My choice. I just want to say I applaud you for being persistent. You stick around in this business because you know what you're doing, and somebody recognizes you as being good at what you do. So I just want to give you for being good at what you do.
Thank you. Up the fun factor. We're finding multiple facets, multiple ways to get people involved during this pandemic, during the COVID-19. And one of the things we've been doing is taking that to Facebook. We've been doing a lot of online concerts on like a Saturday evening. We'll get a local band to take over our Facebook page and do a mini show. We have done online virtual trivia with our listeners on our Facebook page on a Saturday night. And then it's something we can direct our listeners during the week to those fun Saturday, Friday night things. And it really has made a difference, I think, in people's attitude, and just it's been a lot of fun. And that's pretty much what I mean by upping the fun factor. We're doing a lot of those things and getting involved in many different ways. Jeffrey Mayer for president. Boo.
I don't even know who Jeffrey Mayer is.
I'm not sure. Dennis, we have another question from Tom Labaugh. Has this coronavirus period affected your advertising, either in volume or the types of advertisers?
So the first week that we were quarantined, it affected us big time, to the point where we were really concerned that it was going to hit us hard. We went from a full commercial load to a zero commercial load, and that first week was rough. I mean, we had no commercials on the air, and as you know, that's what pays the bills in radio. And then slowly they've started trickling back in. A lot of clients have realized that, hey, this is probably a good opportunity to let people know how they can use us right now. And so we're actually getting some new clients on the station, some clients that, for instance, Lancaster Paint and Glass is one that's getting ready to come on board because they're selling the partitions to the grocery stores right now. So places like that could benefit from getting the word out are starting to come on board, and some of the old clients, Stouffer's of Kissel Hill, the grocery stores and places like that, they definitely are doing pretty well at the moment. So they continue on. And I'm sure once things clear, we'll get a lot of our advertisers back, hopefully. But at the moment, things are looking a lot better than they were a few weeks ago.
All right, next question I have is it true that WKRP in Cincinnati was made as a documentary and then they just added a laugh track to market it as a sitcom?
That's a great. I still watch reruns.
Can not-for-profits like Echoes have a commercial queued up in case you don't have open slots for paid commercial load?
Yes, yeah, we ran a lot of not-for-profits during that first week. That's how we filled our commercial breaks with a lot of that stuff. So yeah, absolutely. Anybody else?
Anyone else have some questions? I think everyone's trying to figure out who's behind Kevin.
Cal Ripken Jr., of course.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, Dennis, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think it's interesting. A lot of us have gotten probably disconnected a little bit from radio sometimes. It's great to hear how well it's doing in certain aspects. And we're lucky to have a local personality like yourself that is in our community, and certainly not only on the air, but I personally know how much you do for the community. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. I love being connected to Etown. So I really appreciate you having me on here. It's an honor. So thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
It's fun to see the meeting run too.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.